Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Creative Collector. So in today's video, it's going to be a little different than what you normally see. I just finished Superman from Zez Studios, and this is by far probably one of the most detailed Superman statues that I have ever put together and painted. So in this video, I'm not going to go through a bunch of paint time lapses. I'm actually going to talk to you in detail about what I did to print and paint this guy here. Yeah, that's right. We're going to break up the monotony a little bit. I'm going to talk to you about the paints, the colors, the effects, everything I used to put him together. But who is Zez Studios? Let me show you. So Zez Studios is a new Patreon that just come about. So they have made a huge impact already just by the quality and the detail of the models that they're creating. Zez Studios also has 3 different tiers to their Patreon. So go over and check them out. Link is below in the description. So I printed this Superman in a 1/4 scale, and he's pretty damn big. So I had to use a couple of very big printers in order to get him printed. And one of the printers I used was the Uniformation GK2, but here's one bigger that I used. And some of the pieces were so big I had to use the Frozen Sonic Mega 8K. It's a monster printer. So the one thing that Zez Studios gives you is options. There's actually 2 head sculpts for this guy. You have the Henry Cavill version. Whoop. You have the Henry Cavill version, and then you have another comic version. This one was so good, I really just did not even bother with the other one. Now I actually printed it out and I may paint it later, but this one just fits everything so well. And the other thing about their models are the keys go together so well, very little seam lines that I had to fool with, and it just fits perfectly. So for my skin tones, I used my own mix. It's something that I pretty much do with all of my models. It basically consists of a nice pale skin tone to kind of match that of Henry Cavill's. And then I use kind of a rose color for like the eyes and everything. If you've seen any of my skin tone videos, I follow this process to the T. And the blue for the suit is an electric blue. It's like a gunmetal blue that I used right here from Vallejo. And this is pretty much straight out of the bottle. This is a perfect color for the suit. And for the shading, all I did was I just added a couple of small drops of black to the blue, and it really set it off pretty good. And when it comes to the high tones, on like some of the high points and everything, I just added just a little bit of pearl white to that blue. I didn't go over the top with any of the highlights or anything. I did not do any dry brushing on this. I did not do any washes. It was just basically a 3-layer process. It was the gunmetal blue, a little bit darker blue, and then the highlights were, added on top of that. And I sealed it with this. So this is what I used to seal it with. It's the same thing as the Color Max that I once talked about. However, this has been discontinued, I believe, and this other stuff just basically took its place. But again, you can find this at like Lowe's or Walmart. It's like $5 a can. It's really cheap and gives a great finish. The other good thing about this model is you can actually print and paint in pieces and not put the whole thing together, and everything fits just flawlessly. That's what I love about Zez Studios models. So each piece that I did was the rock formation here is actually 2 pieces. The bottom base here is 2 pieces, and the shuttle here, or the spaceship, is actually 2 pieces, aside from these little pieces that actually attach to it. And then you got the seat that actually sits down in there. But these fit all together great. I had virtually no major prep work involved in it, and everything just it just fit together real good. Oh, I forgot, you have this other piece right here that sits on top of this, but again, not very much seam work to fix. Now the cape, I opted to do this sculpted cape. I was going to do a fabric cape, a wired cape, but I decided on this one instead. I think it just kind of fit the character a little bit better. And this is actually one solid piece here that I printed, and it is heavy. There is a lot of weight to this, but everything with the way the stability is with Superman's feet sitting on the rock formation and the spaceship, there is a big long peg that his foot sits in there, and this sits on top right here. It really fits good together. I don't have any uneven weight distribution or any type of leaning or anything like that. Everything just goes really good together, you know, and it looks good. So the red that I use for the cape and the boots is this Wicked Colors by Createx. I'm not sure if they still make this anymore, but this is a deep blush red. It is a something scarlet that's scratched off right there. But I use this straight out of the bottle. I didn't do any mixing whatsoever. On the shadowing, I just actually used a little bit of black pastel, chalk pastel, to go into the cracks and the crevices and stuff to kind of give it a little bit of depth to it. And then for this up here, I used a metallic red from Tamiya. Tamiya makes a great metallic color. It goes on very, very smooth, almost like a self-leveling type of paint, but it turned out really, really well. Perfect color that I wanted for it. Of course, with the cape, all I did was I just applied that red. I didn't do any washes or anything like that on it. And then I just airbrushed a little bit of shading into the back here with just a base white, or I'm sorry, a base black. I'll get it right in a minute. But nothing too over the top or anything like that. I glued it to the top of the shoulders here with basically a 2-part epoxy that I always use from BSI Industries. And this is the BSI Quick Cure epoxy that I use. It's a 5-minute epoxy. They actually have it in a 15-minute variety too. But the super glue was not going to hold that cape on there. And in order for it to stay stable and not any leaning or anything like that, this is what I used. I use this on all my models. It is available on Amazon. I do have some affiliate links below on a lot of the stuff that I use, so go check those out. So the legs and the torso here, and as well as the arms, I glued all together before I painted everything, and then I just added the hands, the head, and of course the boots separately. The boots, everything just fit so well with the pegs and everything, with the cuts. It basically just almost like snaps into there. It's just a really well applied model. They engineered this very, very well. So on the base for the rock formations, I actually base coated this with this brown and gray here from Pro Acryl for Monument Hobbies. I love, love, love this paint. It's got rich pigments. It coats very, very well. And this is so airbrush friendly. But I actually went in and I coated all of this down. And then I used a black wash over everything. And then basically just added some of the gray highlights by dry brushing it some on here. And for the lava effect, I went down and used a light gray color. I just painted it in the lava areas right here. Just painted it with a brush. And then I went back over with a basic yellow from Pro Acryl. And I airbrushed all of that all through there. And then I used a orange transparent paint from Vallejo. And went in, and it's almost like a contrast paint. Well, I guess you could call it a contrast paint. And I went in and put that on as well. And then I just went through with a little bit of red with a brush and just kind of put some of those areas in the lava just to kind of give it a little bit of color. But I didn't want to oversaturate it with yellow and orange or anything like that. I needed a little bit of that red to really, really make it pop out. So for the bottom base here, I basically coated this, painted it in a gunmetal gray here, just a metallic color from Vallejo, and then I basically went over it. Once it dried, I used this Agrax Earth shade from Citadel. I don't use Citadel paints very much because they're just so expensive, but this stuff is great in creating type of corrosion effects. And then I actually put some rust effects on here. And for that I use the Game Color Special Effects Corrosion. This stuff really is just a wonder in making some of those details pop. And then after I got all done with that, then I went back over You see some of the chipping and some of the dry brushing here. I really wanted a really nasty weathered effect. So I used this right here, this chrome from Vallejo here. But what I did first was I did some minor chipping on this, and then I sealed it, and then I went back and then I used a little bit more of this over the top of that, because if you seal this over this paint right here, it's going to dull it out. It's not going to look shimmery or anything like that. And I really like the effect. It just looks dirty, grimy, nasty, and looks like it's aged quite a bit. And then I took and did a little bit of lining inside right in here with just some black with a brush, nothing over the top. And I think I got a nice effect off of it here. And this is the back view of it right here. I actually had a few bumps and stuff from the supports up here on the top of this, and I actually left them a little bit because I didn't want it so smooth. I sanded it down a little bit, but I wanted to give it a little bit of a weathered effect on top of there, and I think it pulled off pretty good. But the one thing I could say about Zez is with their seams and with the way their cuts are, like, you can't see any seams on this right here. I did no prep work on this, and this is a two-piece base here. The reason being is because they actually cut it along the side here, and it goes straight through, and of course the rock formation sits on top of that, and you don't have to worry about the seam on the top of this, but it comes together really nice, and then the other line goes through here right up against that, and you can't see it. So it pulled off really, really good. And one thing I could point out with the rocks is, again, this is up to you how you want to do it. I actually incorporated a little bit of blue-gray into some of the mid-tones here as when I was dry brushing it, as well as a little bit of white for the caps. But you want to play with different colors on this because, of course, the rocks are not all the same colors. And you put a little bit of variety, a little bit of variation in there, and it comes out with some really, really good tones. But you just want to make it look like rock. There's so much you can do that's not right or wrong. It's just a matter of your preference. The spaceship consisted basically of a top half and a lower half and a seat, and they had these two small parts right here, and on the tip top up here was like a little handle, a little lever, but the only seams that you would see would go right through the middle of this area right here. And all I did was I just filled this up with a little bit of putty and smoothed it out, and you can never really see that there was a seam in there. Now the inside here, I probably could have done a little bit better job right here. I didn't catch that or whatever. There is a little seam there, a little gap there, but you're running on some textures, so that's kind of difficult at times. The other side seemed to work out pretty good. Now the seat here, very detailed, looks really like it's been ripped up, the foam's coming out. Of course you got the Superman emblem on there, but even the inside of this thing, like the flooring and all that, is all detailed. I mean, it's just an amazing model, but they thought of everything. The seat just prints out, sits in there, glue it in there and everything, and then once you got it in there, these two little pieces right here, these two little metal parts, just glue on to the outside of the ship. And the ship just sets down in the rock formation there. Not much effort to put into it, really. The only thing that you want to do if you put this model together is make sure you line up these 2 feet, because this is a peg that sits in there, and this one is just rocks. It sits on the rock formation, and you just want to make sure that everything sits right, and you don't have your foot placement as too far over to the left or to the right, and sits right on there really good. And for the ship, I pretty much took the same approach as I did for the lower base. I painted it a gunmetal gray, put a nice black wash all over it, and then I started doing some chipping with that chrome paint. And I, again, just wanted to make it look really dirty, really weathered up real good, and everything turned out pretty well. It did some scratches and stuff like that on it. You just kind of have to toy with it a little bit. But all in all, yeah. The inside of the chair right here, I used a burnt red from Pro Acryl, And then I put a little bit of lighter color right here to make that S pop out a little bit. And of course the foam is just a really, really light gray, and then a little bit of white tips on there, a little bit of white dry brushing on there to bring out that effect and that depth. But all in all, nothing too over the top, nothing too complex for the inside of the cockpit. So this is the burnt red from Pro Acryl that I used, and I also used that on the tips of the boots here to give it a little bit of contrast and to kind of break it up a little bit. I put a little bit of pastel, a little black pastel, and a little bit of airbrushing right here, darkened it up a little bit to kind of make Superman's boots not so clean looking. So for the emblem and the belt, I basically used this gold leaf. This is called Liquid Leaf right here. I absolutely love this stuff. I got it at Michael's. I got like a couple of things of this like 2 or 3 years ago. Unfortunately, I don't think that they make this anymore. If they do, it's something completely different. But this stuff right here it's just amazing. For like just a basic goofy little acrylic paint that you pick up in a store, you can do so many effects with it. And what I did here was I didn't even do a wash or anything. I wanted to dull it up a little bit, and I just basically sealed it. But on this right up here, I dirtied up the emblem a little bit by putting a little bit of pastel in there. Didn't want it so clean. I tried to, go with what the movie has. But it's one of those things you just kind of toy with a little bit, and I think the gold was perfect for this. And last but not least, what I did was on the final part of the base, on the lava here, I just used a clear gloss coat from Leo on this, and just to make it shine a little bit, kind of give it a little bit of simulation of like lava or fire, however. But that's the effect that the design has on it, so that's what I used on it. Other than that, everything else is sealed with that sealer that I showed you earlier. And yeah, the only other thing that's gloss on it are the eyes. The Henry Cavill portrait up here, the eyes are, of course, you see that little shine right there. But other than that, that's the only thing. Everything else is basically just a flat on here. Even the metallic, I did seal the metallic. It looks still shiny though, and that's the pretty cool thing about that paint is even though you used a flat, even though I used a flat on it, it still has that shimmer on it, and it just turned out really good. So as I stated earlier, I did print this on the Uniformation GK2 on like the smaller parts like the head and the arms and the hands. And the bigger parts like the base, I printed on the Frozen Sonic Mega 8K, and I sliced it in Chi2 box, printed it on the smaller parts. I used 1.8 millimeter thickness with a 5% grid 3D infill. And then on the larger pieces like the base, I printed it at a 2.2 millimeter, give it a little bit more stability, a little bit more thickness, because even though this model is hollow, it still weighs about 10 pounds. And a lot of that is from that cape that is printed solid. That thing alone is beefy, it's got some weight to it, but it's a very sturdy model, not flimsy at all. And I'm really happy with how the model itself turned out. And speaking of patrons, I also have a Patreon where we also have a private Discord. You could talk all things printing and painting. And we also do a model of the month as well, as long as you join the $10 tier. And we got a couple of new members this week, so let's check out and see who it is. So we have Jimmy Higdon and Alan Balmer. Thank you guys so much for signing up on the Patreon. And again, if you're looking to join the Patreon, the link is below in the description. And if you're not into the Patreon thing, just simply watch another video and support the channel by that. Okay guys, I know this video is a little different, but I want to thank you for the support. We just hit 20,000 subscribers, an amazing milestone. I'm looking forward to the next 20,000 as well. And you know the drill, guys. Like, subscribe, leave some comments, share the video, all that good stuff. And as usual, stay safe out there, everyone. Don't forget, get out and create something. Print, prep, paint, repeat. And until the next video, we'll see you. You know, I never showed the other kid. Kind of looks something like this. Not bad. Not bad at all.